I found out when I came home from work and saw the mess. I called my lawyer that night. That was the last straw. Be honest, if your father betrayed you in front of everyone you loved, would you have swallowed it and moved on, or would you have made him face what he did? I'm Julia. I'm 34, and I work as a hospital administrator in Minneapolis. Last year, I bought my own condo, a 2-bedroom in a building with a view of the river. It was the first real thing I did by myself after my divorce, and it felt like proof I was moving forward. I spent a lot of nights walking through empty rooms, figuring out where things would go, measuring walls, and saving pictures of kitchens on my phone. There was a quiet in the place that I liked. My family is from Maple Grove, about half an hour away. We still see each other on Sundays, but it's always the same pattern. My dad, Frank, likes to joke that I'm the career girl, always working late, always busy. My brother Tony, who's 2 years younger, is the family man. He's got 2 kids, a wife, a house in the suburbs. Dad lights up when Tony talks about his kids or his mortgage. With me, it's always work talk. He says he's proud, but it's different. I can feel it. Last month, I decided to redo my kitchen. I'd put money aside for it all year. I picked out the cabinets, counters, and appliances myself. I went to showrooms, brought home samples, argued with myself about handles and faucets. I wanted a space that felt like mine, clean lines, pale wood, everything solid and quiet. I let myself get attached to the idea. When it was time for the delivery, Dad said he wanted to help supervise. He said he knew contractors, that he could make sure nobody scratched the floors. I said okay. It felt good to let him in on something. Now, thinking back, I remember the way he looked around and asked why I was getting all this, if it's just you eating here. He said it like a joke, but he watched my face. I told him I liked to cook, that it made me happy. He shrugged. I laughed it off. I let it slide. I didn't see it as a warning. I just wanted things to go smoothly, for once. The front door stuck a little, as always. It dragged against the warped frame. I leaned into it with my hip, careful not to spill the grocery bag I'd wedged against my chest. The house was quiet. I thought Mom might be upstairs, reading. I called out, nothing. I set the bag on the kitchen counter and stopped. The counter looked wrong. Something in the air felt off, cold, metallic, even though the heater was on. I stared at the space by the window. The new fridge was gone. In its place was the old one, the one with the peeling beige paint that rattled every time the compressor kicked in. I blinked hard. Maybe I was tired. Then I turned. The matching range was missing too, replaced with the old coil burner model that had rust along the sides. My dishwasher, the one I'd bought with my first bonus, was gone. In its place sat an ancient, off-white box with a cracked handle. I opened it, and the top rack stuck, just like it used to before I replaced it. There was a note on the table, folded twice. My name on the front, in Dad's blocky handwriting. I hesitated, then opened it. Had to make some changes. Tony and Karen needed a hand. We'll talk tonight. Dad. I stood in the middle of the kitchen. The groceries felt heavy in my arms. I set them down again. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, thumb trembling a little. A text from an unknown number. Just a foe. I opened it. Tony, my older brother, smiling, arm around his wife. They were standing in their kitchen, but it wasn't theirs. Behind them was my fridge, my oven, my dishwasher. The sticker I'd left on the bottom corner of the fridge was still there. It was their house. I could see Karen's little ceramic spoon rest on the stove. My hands started to sweat. I set the phone down because I didn't trust myself not to drop it. I looked around the kitchen, then back at the note. The old fridge hummed, louder than I remembered. I tried to breathe slow, but it wasn't working. I called Dad. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Still nothing. I stared at the phone, willing it to ring. I could feel the edge of the counter, digging into my hip. I listened to my own breathing for a while, then called again. This time I left a message. Dad, it's me. I came home, and the appliances are gone. Did you take them? Please call me back. I hung up and sat down at the table. The seat was cold. I picked up the note again. The words blurred a little. Tony and Corinne needed a hand. I tried to picture Dad and Tony carrying the heavy fridge through the front door. I wondered if they scratched the wall like we did last time. I wondered if Mom knew. I checked my bank app. The last payment for those appliances had cleared just 3 days ago. I scrolled through my photos and found the receipt. I'd picked them out myself, measured, negotiated the delivery, even hauled the boxes inside because nobody else was home that day. I'd cleaned up the packing foam. I'd watched Mom run her hand over the new oven, smiling. Now it was gone. All of it. I texted Dad again, just where are you, and waited. The old fridge kicked on, rattling. I looked around at the chipped laminate, the scuffed floor, the way everything seemed to slide back into the past. My phone stayed silent. After a while, I put the groceries away. The milk barely fit in the old fridge. The door squeaked when I closed it. I watched the note curl at the corners, like it was trying to fold back in on itself. I didn't touch it. I just sat there and listened to the hum. The drive over was quiet. I didn't put music on. My hands stayed tight on the wheel, knuckles white, head full of the words from the lawyer's office. My name missing from the will. The living room light was on when I pulled up. I could see Dad's legs, stretched out in his recliner through the wind. The TV flickered blue and gray across the wall. I didn't knock. I walked in, shoes on, and stood in the doorway for a second. Dad didn't look up. He was watching some game show. There was a half-finished beer on the side table, a bowl of peanuts. Mom was at the dining table sorting mail. The room smelled the same as always. A little like dust, a little like old carpet. I stood just inside the door. Dad, I said. He grunted, not looking up. I waited. He turned the volume down a notch, thumb mashing the remote, then glanced over. Why? I said. My voice sounded strained. Why would you do that? He shrugged, the kind of shrug he used when I was a kid, and dropped a glass of milk or forgot to take out the trash. Like it wasn't important. You don't need all that, he said. Tony's family does. You'll thank me someday. I stared at him. The room felt smaller. You're just giving it all to Tony, I asked. Everything, the house. He nodded. He didn't look ashamed. He didn't even look at me, just back at the TV. It makes sense, he said. He's got mouths to feed. You're fine, Julia. You don't have kids. You don't have anyone depending on you. Mom still hadn't looked up. She was reading the back of an envelope, lips tight. I walked closer, trying to catch her eye. Mom. She shook her head, small, barely moving. She never liked conflict. I'd seen her go silent 100 times before, but this was different. Her shoulders were hunched. She kept her eyes on the stack of bills. I put my bag down on the carpet. You had no right, I said, voice a little louder. It's not yours to give away. Grandma left that house to you, for both of us. Dad's face didn't change. Don't cause a scene, Julia. Be grateful you have a roof over your head. He reached for his beer, took a long drink, and set it back down. This is family business, not the end of the world. I looked at Mom again. Her jaw was clenched. She still wouldn't look at me. I waited, but she didn't say anything. I tried to remember the last time she hugged me. It felt far away. I pressed my hands against the back of a chair. I felt the edge dig into my palms. So that's it, I said. I'm just supposed to accept it. Dad didn't answer. He was back to the TV, remote in hand, clicking through channels. The sound of canned laughter filled the room. Mom shuffled the envelopes, stacked them neatly, started again with a new pile. I stood there for a long minute. I could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. I looked at the framed photos on the wall. Tony and his kids at the beach, me in my high school cap and gown, the four of us at Christmas 10 years ago. The faces looked like strangers. I picked up my bag. Dad didn't look up. Mom pressed her lips together, finally glanced at me, but her eyes slid away. I waited for her to say something. I walked out without saying goodbye. The door clicked shut behind me. The street outside was empty. I stood on the porch for a few seconds, breathing in the cold. My car was parked at the curb, under a streetlight. I could see my own hands, shaking a little as I unlocked it. Inside, the radio came on low. I turned it off. I sat in the dark, hands in my lap, watching the house. No one came to the window. No one watched me leave. Tony opened the door before I finished knocking. He leaned against the frame, one hand in his pocket, the other holding his phone. I could see the blue glow on his face. He didn't move aside. I didn't ask him to. I didn't bother with hellos. I looked past him into the hall. It was all too familiar. The same layout as Dad's, different wallpaper. I could hear the hum of my refrigerator, no mistaking that sound. I stepped in. He didn't try to stop me. The kitchen was straight ahead. There, in the corner, was my stand mixer. The color was unmistakable, matte green, a limited edition. My name was still on the shipping sticker, peeling at the edge. The coffee machine, the toaster, the matching kettle, lined up exactly as I'd planned for my new place. It took a second to notice the dishwasher was mine, too. The plastic protector was still taped to the front. Tony's wife was at the kitchen table, folding laundry. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "Coffee," she said. She pointed at my machine. "It's already on." I looked at her, then at Tony. He shrugged. "Dad said you'd understand." I ignored the chair she offered. I walked over to the stand mixer and ran my finger over the sticker. It left a greasy line. "These are mine," I said. "You know that." Tony put his phone down. "They're Dad's, technically. He paid the contractors. So all the stuff is his." I pulled out my phone and opened my payment app. The receipt for the appliance store was right there. My name, my account, the exact amount. It was the biggest one-time purchase I'd ever made. I handed my phone to Tony. He didn't bother looking. His wife poured herself coffee. "It's good," she said. "Makes the milk frothy, not burnt." I scrolled down to the invoice details. Delivery address, Tony's house. The date was 3 days ago, right in the middle of the work week. I was at the office, not home. I remembered setting up the delivery to my new apartment. I remembered confirming it twice. I remembered the call from the store about a last-minute change, but they said Dad had called. "Who changed the address?" I asked. Tony leaned against the counter. "You'd have to ask Dad." I walked over to the dishwasher, opened it. New racks never used. I ran my hand along the inside. I thought about calling the police. I said it out loud. "I'll call the police." Tony smiled without his teeth. "You can try. But the receipt says Dad S, and it's Dad's card on file with the contractors. He said you'd understand." I looked at the coffee machine. There was a crack on the side. That wasn't there before. I closed my eyes. You knew, I said. His wife shrugged. We needed new stuff. Our old stuff was breaking. Dad said you weren't settled yet. Tony cut in. This is family. It's not a big deal. He watched me scan the room. I looked for any sign that my things were coming back to me. There was nothing. Tony's phone buzzed. He picked it up, started texting. You can talk to Dad, but he's pretty clear. He gave us the stuff for the house. He said you'd be fine. I took a picture of each appliance, one by one. My name on every sticker. The payment screen. The invoice address. Tony watched, not caring. He opened a cabinet. Inside were my plates, the set I saved for. I reached for one, turned it over. The store tag was still half on. He didn't stop me. I put my phone away. You're not even pretending you didn't know. Tony shrugged again. Dad said you'd understand. I walked out without saying goodbye. I left the door open. Neither of them followed. I heard the coffee machine hiss, and his wife started talking about laundry. On the street, I checked the delivery call log. Dad's number, not mine, on the day of the switch. My name, my money. Their house. I stood there, holding my phone, feeling the cold through my jacket. I didn't call anyone. I just kept walking. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, the fridge humming louder than usual. I still hadn't unpacked the new coffee maker. I pulled up my email and scrolled back to the week before, looking for the order confirmation. There it was. Thank you for your purchase. Delivery to 17 Wexler Road. My address, my name, everything correct. The timestamp lined up with the day I'd placed the order. That day, Frank had been in the room, sitting on the couch with his phone, not even looking up when I read out the model number. I kept scrolling, checking every message from the store. A new one jumped out. Delivery change request, approved. The subject line had my order number. The email had come in the next morning, right when I would have been in that budget meeting. I opened it and scanned the first lines. Your request to change the delivery address has been approved by Frank L. It wasn't my request. I clicked the attachment. It was a PDF with the store's logo and a line for a signature. Someone had signed my name. It was all loops and a big, lazy C at the start. Nothing like my handwriting. I looked at it for a long time, then opened a blank page and wrote my name a few times, just to see. Mine was always tight, upright, a little slant. The one on the form almost looked like a child's copy. I read the email again. We have processed the address change per your request, 88 Riverview Lane, Frank's apartment. I felt my jaw tighten. I scrolled back through my phone messages from that day. Frank had texted me just after lunch, hey, want Thai tonight, but nothing else. No mention of the order, no apology for missing the delivery call. I thought about the meeting. I'd left my laptop unlocked at my desk when I'd run to the bathroom. Frank had dropped by the office to bring me coffee that morning, said he had a dentist appointment nearby. He'd set the cup on my desk, smiled, and asked if I needed anything printed. I'd said no, thanks. I opened my work calendar and checked the timing. He'd been in the building for about 10 minutes, just enough time to see my Outlook open. He must have gone into my email, found the order, forwarded it to himself, and called the store. He had all my info. We'd shared passwords before, for Netflix and grocery apps. I'd never thought twice about it. I picked up my phone and scrolled through our old texts, looking for anything about appliances, anything that would explain it. There was nothing. Just a few short replies about dinner, errands, the usual. I tried calling him once, listened to it ring, then hung up before it went to voicemail. I forwarded the email chain to myself, then to my work account, just to have a backup. I saved the PDF twice, once on my desktop, once in the cloud. My hands felt cold, but I kept moving. I opened a new tab and searched forged signature appliance delivery. A few forum posts came up. Most people thought stores didn't check IDs. I wondered if Frank knew that, or if he just guessed. The silence in the condo felt heavier. I stood up and opened the fridge, pulled out the milk, then put it back. I sat down again and stared at the screen, rereading the forged signature. It didn't look like anyone's name, just a squiggle. I wondered who at the store had looked at that and clicked approve. I thought about texting my sister, but I closed my phone. I didn't want to explain yet. I wanted to see what else he'd done before I said anything out loud. I sent myself a calendar reminder to call the store in the morning. I typed out a note, ask about signature, get delivery log, and saved it. I watched the clock tick past midnight. My inbox was empty, except for the trace he'd left. I closed the laptop and shut off the kitchen light. The condo felt smaller than usual, but I left the coffee maker in the box. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the tap of my shoes on the tile. Mom had her back to me, scraping crumbs into the sink. She didn't turn around when I came in. I stood there for a second, just watching the set of her shoulders. She'd always been small, but she looked even smaller now, like she was bracing for something. I didn't bother with small talk. "Why didn't you tell me?" I said. She kept her eyes on the sink. "Your father said not to," she said. "He wanted Tony to have a nice kitchen for the kids. He said you'd be okay." I leaned against the counter. "And that's it, you just listened." She rinsed her hands, dried them on a towel. "I didn't want to make trouble," she said. "Tony's got those twins," and she stopped, mouth working like she was chewing the words. "He said you didn't need it as much." I pressed my palm onto the counter. "Did you know about the documents? The delivery forms with my name?" She went quiet. I watched her fingers tighten on the towel. For a second, I thought she wouldn't say anything. "Mom," I said. "Did you know?" She didn't look at me. "He asked me to call the store," she said, voice low. "Pretend I was you, just for the paperwork. He said it would be easier that way." My breath felt sharp in my chest. "And you did it." She nodded, still staring at the sink. "I only did what he told me. I didn't think it would hurt anything. Tony needed help, and you," her head jerked, like she was about to say something else and swallowed it. I could hear the clock ticking over the stove. I thought about all the times she'd called me to ask about recipes, or if I was coming for Sunday dinner, and wondered if she'd felt this guilty then. "He lied to both of us," she said finally. "He said you'd be fine. He said you didn't care." I wanted to laugh then, but the sound stuck in my throat. "Did you care?" I asked. She turned finally, her eyes red. "Of course I care. But you know how he is. Once he decides something." I waited. The silence stretched. "I'm sorry," she said, quieter than before. "I didn't want to choose sides." "But you did." She flinched. "I didn't mean to," she said. I just... I pushed off the counter. "I can't believe you let him do this. You know, Tony never even asked me. He just took it." She shook her head. "It's not that simple," she said. "He's struggling. You have a job, you have your own place. I thought you'd understand." I swallowed. I thought about the empty space where my appliances should be. The months I'd spent saving, planning, picking things out. How easy it must have been for them to decide it didn't matter. "Did Dad make you do anything else?" I asked. She shook her head again, but slower this time. "No. Just the call. I swear. I didn't move." I let the anger sit there, heavy and hot, and I watched her stand there, wiping her hands over and over on the towel, like she could scrub the guilt away. "I have to go," I said. I didn't wait for her to answer. I walked out of the kitchen, past the hall where our family photos hung, and out the front door. I didn't look back. I woke up early the next morning. I didn't bother with breakfast. I dug out a folder from the kitchen drawer, where I kept receipts for the house expenses. I flipped through until I found the one for the refrigerator, the one Ethan and I picked out together last year. The payment was on my card. I took a photo with my phone and saved it. I opened my laptop and pulled up my email. I searched appliance delivery and found the old thread with the store. There was the invoice attached, my name on the order, shipping to our house. I scrolled up and down, not sure what I was looking for. Then I remembered the new fridge, how it had arrived out of nowhere, and how Ethan refused to talk about it. I called the appliance store. The hold music played for a few minutes. A woman answered. I gave my name and address, then asked if she could tell me who requested the replacement. She sounded tired. "Hold on, let me check the notes." I waited. She came back. "Looks like the change was requested by Julia L. last week. We have her number on file." She paused, like she wasn't sure if she should say more. I thanked her and hung up. Julia L. was Ethan's sister. She'd always acted like the house was half hers, making suggestions, dropping by unannounced. She knew exactly what she was doing. I printed the receipt, the email, and wrote down the date and time of the store's confirmation. I scrolled through my texts with Ethan. I screenshot the messages from the day the new fridge arrived. His flat, "It's nothing" reply, his refusal to let me see the paperwork. I sent everything to Miriam. She was a friend from college, a lawyer who'd helped me with small stuff before. I attached the files, typed a short message. "Ethan and Julia replaced the fridge without telling me. I paid for the original. Store says Julia requested the chain. Can you look?" I stared at the screen after I hit send. The house was quiet. I could hear the new fridge humming in the kitchen, louder than the old one. I sat there, listening until my phone buzzed. It was Miriam. She didn't waste time. "Julia, this is theft. And fraud." She sounded more awake than I felt. "If you want to do something about it, we need to document everything." "I already forwarded the files," I said. "Good. Keep any other texts or emails you have. Don't talk to them about this yet. Let me handle the first contact." I asked what happens next. She said she'd draft a letter. She asked if Ethan had access to any of my other accounts. She asked if I could think of anything else Julia might have taken or changed. I said no, just the fridge, but I wasn't sure. Miriam's voice was steady. She said, "You did the right thing by calling me. Most people wait too long or try to deal with family quietly. That's when it gets messy." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. When we hung up, I went back into the kitchen. I opened the new fridge. The shelves were empty, except for a half-finished bottle of wine and a bag of spinach. It looked bigger than the old one. Colder, somehow. I closed the door and stood for a while, staring at my own reflection in the stainless steel. I realized I hadn't eaten anything all day. I didn't feel hungry. I took out the wine, poured a glass, and sat at the table. I kept my phone close. I checked my email every half hour. Miriam sent a message in the afternoon. "I'm writing to Julia and Ethan. I need you to stay quiet for now. If either of them contacts you, tell me right away." I typed back, "Okay." The day felt longer than usual. I went through the motions, laundry, dishes, checking the mail. Everything looked the same, but none of it felt right. I touched the fridge every time I walked past it. Just a tap, as if checking that it was still there. I was sitting at my kitchen table with a stack of bills, trying to make sense of my finances, when Miriam called. She didn't waste time with greetings. "You home?" she asked. "Yeah." She said she was stopping by. Her voice was clipped, different from usual. She arrived 10 minutes later with a thick folder in her hand. She didn't take off her jacket, just came straight in and put the folder down in front of me. "You need to see this," she said. She slid out a few papers. I saw the insurance company's letterhead and my own address. It was a claim summary with a list of damaged appliances: fridge, oven, washer, dryer. The payout was highlighted at the bottom. I didn't remember any claim. I looked at Miriam. She didn't look away. "Look at the claimant's signature," she said. At the bottom was my father's name, in his jagged, left-slanting handwriting. The date matched the month I'd been in the hospital for surgery, 2 years ago. Miriam flipped to another page, a copy of the claim check, deposited into my dad's account. She'd printed the deposit slip, too. I felt something slow and physical in my chest. I thought of the appliances, my old fridge that never worked right, the dryer that rattled. I'd replaced them myself, out of pocket, thinking it was just bad luck and old wiring. I'd never seen a cent from insurance. I looked at Miriam. "How did you get this?" She shrugged. "I have a friend at the insurance company. Remember when you said your premiums went up for no reason? I got curious." I read through the rest. The adjuster's inspection note said, "Per homeowner's request, father present at site." I tried to remember that week. I'd been on heavy painkillers, in and out of sleep. I remembered Dad bringing me soup, sitting in the chair by the bed, talking quietly. He must have let himself in, shown the adjuster around, signed the forms. I put the papers down. "How much was the check?" "3,000, Miriam said. "He cashed it the day after you came home from the hospital." There was a silence. The refrigerator hummed. Miriam kept watching me. "It's not just favoritism," I said. "No," she said. "It's not." I got up and checked my kitchen. The appliances were still there, dented but working. The insurance report said irreparable damage. I pressed my hand against the fridge. Cold. It kept running, even after everything. "He did it to your car, too," Miriam said quietly. "I found a payout for hail damage. He kept the money, didn't he?" I nodded. I remembered Dad telling me the car was fine, no need to file a claim. I'd paid for the repairs myself. He must have called in another claim when I was at work. I sat back down. I could feel the weight of every small thing that hadn't made sense. The missing tools. The savings bonds from Grandma. The time my tax refund was delayed, but Dad offered to front me the money. Miriam touched my arm. "What do you want to do?" I didn't answer right away. I looked at the papers, then at the window, where the sky was going dark. I heard my father's voice in my head, calm, reassuring. "You don't need to worry about that, I'll take care of it." I realized he'd been saying that my whole life. I realized I'd let him. Miriam started to gather up the papers. "I'll leave these with you," she said. "Thanks," I said. She left, closing the door behind her. I sat there with the folder in front of me, the numbers and signatures staring up. I felt nothing in particular, just a quiet, final kind of clarity. The appointment with the store manager is at 10:45 a.m. I leave work early and take the binder from my car. It's heavier than it should be. I walk through the automatic doors and ask for Mr. Feldman at the customer service counter. He comes out 5 minutes later, tall, in a blue shirt, polite but distracted. I shake his hand and say I have information about the refrigerator order from 3 months ago. He leads me into a small office behind the sales floor. I set the binder on the desk and open it to the first email. I explain, "This is the order confirmation. Here's the payment from my account. Here's the delivery date my mother insisted on changing. And this is the delivery acceptance form with my forged signature." He looks at the form, then at me. He asks if I ever signed for the delivery. I say no. I haven't even seen the refrigerator in person. He flips through the papers, then sits back. Quiet. He says he'll need to run all this by their legal department and the delivery contractors. He asks if I've spoken to the police. I say I'm planning to. I want the store's official record first. He nods and says he'll make copies. He asks if he can keep the originals. I say I'll email scanned versions, but I'm keeping the originals for now. He doesn't argue. I call the insurance investigator from the store parking lot. She picks up on the second ring. I tell her I have proof the claim was fraudulent. My signature was forged, and my mother accepted the appliance, not me. I offer to forward the emails and the scanned documents. There's a pause. She says she'll reopen the file and will need a formal written statement. She gives me her direct email. I say I'll send everything this afternoon. Back home, I type the statement. I keep it short and factual. The appliance was paid for from my account, delivered while I was at work, and accepted by someone else. My signature was forged on the acceptance. I attach the emails, the payment record, the photo of the forged form, and a copy of my driver's license. I BCC myself on the email to the investigator. It's almost 3 p.m. I drive to the police station. The fluorescent lights make everything look gray. I wait at the desk for nearly half an hour before a young officer takes me to a side room. I hand over the binder and repeat everything. The purchase, the delivery, the forged signature, the insurance claim. He asks if I think my mother did it. He writes in a small notebook, then gives me a case number and says someone will contact me if they need anything else. I don't call my parents. I don't send a warning text or ask them to explain. I let the process happen. It feels strange, almost empty, not to give them a head start, not to soften the impact. I put the binder on the kitchen counter and stare at it for a while. I make tea, then sit and listen to the refrigerator humming. This one is mine. I bought it after the old one disappeared. There's nothing special about it. It works, that's all. When the tea gets cold, I pour it down the sink and check my email. The investigator has already replied. She thanks me for the documentation and says she'll be in touch if there are further questions. The store manager hasn't written back yet. It's dark outside. I turn off the kitchen lights and go to bed early. I check my phone one last time. Nothing from my parents. No missed calls, no messages. I set the phone on the nightstand and close my eyes. Silence feels different tonight, less like a wait, more like a pause before something else. Tony called at 7:12 in the morning. I was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with my coffee, looking at the pale sunlight on the floor. He didn't waste time. "What did you do?" he said. His voice was sharp, like he'd slept in his clothes. I didn't answer right away. I could hear voices behind him. A woman's voice, then a man, muffled but urgent. I could picture the living room, Tony standing in the hallway by the cordless phone, Dad probably pacing at the window. "This is between Dad and the law now," I said. I kept my voice even. I heard him exhale. "You called the police," he said. "They're here, they've got people in uniforms. Mom is crying. Are you happy?" I listened to the coffee maker drip. I could hear someone talking in the background, saying something about a list. Tony sounded younger than usual. "They're not here for me," I said. I waited. The silence stretched. He lowered his voice. They're taking stuff out of the garage. They said it's evidence. What did you tell them? I didn't tell them anything, I said. They found out on their own. The insurance company did their job. He swore. I heard a door slam, then footsteps. I pictured him walking down the hall, away from Dad, away from whatever scene was unraveling. I thought about the garage, all the boxes stacked against the wall, the new appliances Dad claimed for after the fire. The big TV, the unopened dishwasher. None of it used, just stored, tags still on. They have a warrant, Tony said. He sounded shaky now, not angry, just lost. They're taking everything. The police. The insurance woman is here, too. She's got a clipboard. You don't care, do you? I let that sit. I didn't answer. In the background, I heard Dad's voice, loud, then muffled again as someone closed a door. Tony said my name, quietly. I said, this is their mess to clean up. Not mine. He hung up without another word. I went to the window. Outside, a neighbor was walking their dog, oblivious to anything except the cold. I stood there, holding my coffee, watching the sky get lighter. 2 hours later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was a woman from the insurance company. She asked if I could confirm a few details about the fire, about Dad's claims, about where I'd been the night of the incident. Her voice was practiced, polite. I told her what I knew. I didn't add anything extra. She thanked me, said they were opening a full investigation into Dad's previous claims. Apparently, there were other incidents, minor thefts, a flooded basement, a lost trailer. She said I might be contacted again. By noon, my phone had stopped ringing. I got one text from Mom, please just talk to your father, but I didn't answer. I sat back down, poured another cup of coffee, and listened to the silence in my apartment. It felt heavy, but not empty. In the afternoon, I got a message from my cousin Cara. She said, "Did you hear about your dad?" I wrote back, "I heard." She didn't reply. I didn't go by the house. I knew what it would look like. Boxes gone, Dad silent, Mom wringing her hands. Tony probably out front, avoiding everyone, pretending to rake leaves. I thought about how fast everything moved, after years of nothing changing. I looked at the empty spot on my counter, where a microwave used to be. I didn't need it. I liked the space. The morning after the settlement made the news, I woke up to 6 missed calls from my mother and 3 from numbers I didn't recognize. I stared at the phone for a while before getting out of bed. The coffee tasted sour. I skipped breakfast and got dressed in silence. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Tony's wife. "You ruined us." I scrolled up to see more messages. "Hope you're happy. You got what you wanted." I turned off notifications. By noon, Dad's lawyer called, but I didn't answer. He left a short voicemail. "Your father wants to speak with you." The tone was clipped, businesslike. The civil suit listed both Dad and Tony as co-defendants. I saw their names in the online docket. I read through the summary twice, then closed the laptop. At work, the office was quiet. Miriam stopped by my desk with a mug of tea. She set it down and leaned in. "You okay?" I nodded. She didn't push. No one else said anything. HR sent out a reminder about confidentiality in legal matters. I forwarded it to my personal email and deleted it from my inbox. Later, I ate lunch at my desk. The sandwich tasted like nothing. My phone vibrated again. Mom, this time leaving a voicemail. I listened to the first few seconds. "Please, can you just call me back? We need to talk about what happens next." I deleted the message. In the afternoon, Tony's wife called from a blocked number. I let it ring. She didn't leave a message. Miriam walked by and caught my eye. I shrugged. She gave a small nod, then kept walking. Around 3, Dad emailed me. 3 sentences, no greeting. This is getting out of hand. Call me. We can work something out. I marked it as unread and closed the tab. By 5, I saw Tony's name trending on a local news feed. The article listed details of the suit and quoted the restitution amount. Comments piled up underneath. I didn't read them. After work, I stopped at the grocery store. My hands shook when I pulled out my card. The clerk smiled and asked about my I said, fine. Nothing special. She nodded, bagged my things, and wished me a good night. At home, the apartment was quiet. I put away food, turned on the TV, then turned it off again. More messages came in, 2 from Mom, 1 from an unknown number, another from Tony's wife. This is your fault. You're a monster. I deleted them all. I thought about blocking her number. I left my phone face down on the table. Later, Miriam sent a text. Just checking in. Let me know if you want company. I typed, thanks, maybe later. She replied with a heart emoji. I stared at the screen, then set it aside. The news kept running the story. Dad and Tony's faces flashed up, side by side. The anchor read the charges. My name wasn't mentioned. I watched until the segment ended, then muted the TV. I ate dinner alone. Rice and vegetables. I washed the dishes slowly, listening to the ticking clock. My phone buzzed one more time. Another call from Mom. I let it go to voicemail. Before bed, I opened my laptop and checked the docket again. The next hearing was scheduled in 2 weeks. I closed the browser and turned out the light. I lay awake a long time, watching headlights flicker across the ceiling. The apartment stayed quiet. No calls, no messages, just the hum of the fridge. I listened to it until I finally fell asleep. The call came on a Thursday morning, just after I'd started a new project at work. The number on my phone was unfamiliar, but it had a local area code. I stepped into the hallway to answer. A woman's voice introduced herself. She worked with the insurance company's fraud division. She said she had questions about some recent claims. I told her what had happened with the kitchen, the bank accounts, the court hearing. She listened, typing as I spoke. Then she asked if I'd ever owned property outside our city. I said no. She read off 2 addresses, one in a neighboring county, another 3 hours away. I'd never heard of either. She asked if my father might have access to my license or social security number. I said he had copies of old paperwork from before I moved out. She thanked me for my time and said she'd be in touch. For 3 days, I didn't hear anything. The knot in my stomach grew tighter. I went to work, cooked dinner, tried to sleep. On Sunday, Mom called. She sounded tired. She said Dad had been acting strange, muttering about lawyers and people coming after him for no reason. I asked her if she knew anything about the properties in the other towns. She went quiet. Then, almost whispering, she said she'd seen letters once, years ago, addressed to me but sent to their house. She asked Dad about them. He said it was a mistake. On Monday, I got another call from the investigator. She said they'd found a pattern. My father had used my identity to file at least 4 separate insurance claims over the past 6 years. He'd listed me as the owner or co-owner. He'd forged my signature on policy documents. She asked if I would be willing to testify if it went to court. I said yes. After that, it moved fast. Police came to my parents' house. They searched Dad's office, took his computer and boxes of files. Mom called again, crying this time. She said Dad had been arrested. She didn't ask for anything. She just kept saying she was sorry. My employer got a call from the investigator. HR called me in. I explained everything, showed them the legal paperwork. They said they understood, but I needed to keep them updated on the case. The court hearing was quick. The judge read out the charges: multiple counts of insurance fraud, identity theft, forgery. My father didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead, gripping the table so hard his knuckles were white. The judge granted a protective order. I was to have no contact with him, and he was barred from coming within 100 feet of my home or workplace. The damages the judge awarded were more than I expected. Not just for the stolen appliances, but for the years of property loss and the emotional distress. The number was higher than anything I'd ever seen attached to my name. The judge said my father's actions were calculated, repeated, and egregious. The words didn't feel real. Tony was called in to testify about his role. He tried to downplay it, saying he'd just done what Dad told him. The judge was unimpressed. Tony was ordered to pay back his half of the damages, or face legal action himself. He looked at me as he left the courtroom. I didn't meet his eyes. When it was over, I walked to my car and sat there with the engine off. I watched people leave the courthouse: lawyers, families, a couple pushing a stroller. It was cold inside the car, but I didn't turn on the heat. I just sat in silence. I knew things wouldn't go back to normal, not ever. But for the first time in months, I felt something like relief. Not happiness, just the absence of dread. I started the car and drove home. The boxes were gone by Tuesday afternoon. I watched the moving guys load the last one, my old set of dishes, chipped from years of careless hands, and I didn't feel anything. There was nothing left in the living room, except the faint outline on the wall where the ugly mirror used to hang. I never liked that mirror. My mother insisted it made the place look grown up. I left it in the hallway outside the elevator with a sticky note: free. The condo felt bigger now. I wiped the kitchen counters, sprayed the fridge, and closed every cabinet door. My phone buzzed once. The lawyer's office, confirming the wire transfer. I checked the balance, saw numbers I'd never seen in my account before, and took a breath. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like sorting receipts after a funeral. The front door clicked behind me. I slid the new deadbolt, matte black, basic, nothing decorative. No more family keys. Nobody would let themselves in with a casserole or a lecture. I tossed the old set in the bottom of the trash. I remember hesitating, then dropping them in anyway. There were lists taped to the fridge. Groceries, appliance brands, a schedule for painters. I ordered a fridge online. White mid-range, no ice maker. The one we used to have kept leaking anyway. I picked a stove that almost matched. No one would come over and say it looked expensive. I liked that thought. I felt my chest unclench a little. I opened the dishwasher and closed it again. The silence was louder than any argument. I sat at the kitchen table, traced the grain in the wood, and realized it was the first time in years I could hear my own thoughts. The last time I'd been alone for more than an hour, my mother had shown up with soup and a stack of bills. She'd talked at me for so long I'd forgotten what I was making for dinner. Now there was space. The neighbor's TV muffled through the wall. The hum of the building's pipes. I could walk from one end of the condo to the other and not see a single thing I hadn't chosen. No more embroidered pillows or framed family photos. I let the walls stay bare. Mail arrived. Bills, junk, a card from my aunt. Hope you're doing okay, call if you want. I put it in a drawer. I didn't want. I unpacked a mug, filled it with water, and drank standing by the sink. The sun set through the kitchen window. The condo felt smaller again, but cleaner. I put away the last of the groceries. No one would come by to help themselves. I double-checked the locks before bed. There was no echo of voices, No phone ringing at midnight. I lay awake for a while, staring at the ceiling, counting the breaths between the radiator's clicks. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. I checked the account again. The check had cleared. I thought about buying something flashy, a new couch, a fancy espresso machine. Instead, I ordered a plain set of towels and a lamp. The kind of things that don't need to be explained or shown off. Things that work. I left the windows open as I got dressed. The city noise drifted in. I made coffee and watched the street below. I knew no one would call to ask what I was doing, or to remind me of errands, or to ask if I was coming to dinner. The condo was still empty, but it was mine. I locked the door behind me, keys in my own hand. No one else's. After I signed the last paper, I put my phone on silent for a week. No more calls from Dad, no texts from Tony. I kept waiting for some final message, but nothing came. Mom called once, 3 days after the settlement. She asked if I was eating, if I had enough money, if I planned to see anyone for the holidays. I said I was fine. She didn't push. That was new for her. The settlement wasn't dramatic. Just a bank transfer and a stack of documents. My lawyer slid everything across the table and said, "That's it, you're clear." I left the office and walked home. The city was the same. People still rushed, still stared at their phones, still bumped into each other without looking up. I felt like I was walking underwater, but everything kept moving around me. I changed the locks on my apartment. I updated every account to my name alone. I opened new savings, new credit cards, new passwords for everything. Dad's name disappeared from every piece of mail. Tony's emails went straight to spam. I kept the blinds open in the mornings, just for the light. I started cooking again, simple things enough for one. Sometimes I'd eat at the counter, sometimes on the floor with my back against the fridge. Mom and I talk once a week. It's short. She asks about the weather. I ask if she needs anything. We don't talk about Dad, or Tony, or the house. I don't ask who's living there now. I don't ask if she's lonely. She doesn't ask about my job. We fill the silence with easy things. Recipes, a book she liked, a movie I haven't seen. I sleep through the night, most nights. There's no one left who can take anything from me. 6 months later, things are quieter. I invited 3 friends from work for dinner. I made pasta and a plain salad. We opened a cheap bottle of wine. The kitchen is small, and the stove clicks before it lights, but everything in it belongs to me. The walls are still bare. We ate at the little table by the window. No one mentioned families or fathers. It was mostly stories from work, complaints about the grocery prices, someone's bad date. I laughed at a joke about my overcooked noodles. After they left, I rinsed the plates and wiped the counter. The house was silent, except for the hum of the old fridge. My phone vibrated with a group text. Someone sent a meme from dinner. I just watched the screen for a while, then put the phone face down. I haven't heard from Dad since court. I kept his number in my phone. Every so often, I see it scroll past when I search for someone else. Tony moved out of state a month after everything. He sent me a short email about a new job. I replied with "good luck, that's all." Sometimes, when I'm digging for a receipt or a spare key, I find the folded note from Dad. It's in the back of the junk drawer, under spare batteries and old pens. I keep it there. I don't read it. It's just another piece of paper now. The apartment is quiet at night. If I listen, I can hear my neighbor's TV through the wall. Sometimes I stand at the window and watch the parking lot lights go out one by one. I don't miss anyone. I don't expect anything. I sleep. I wake up. I make coffee. I go on. A parent is supposed to protect you, not take advantage of you. If your own father forged your signature and emptied your account, would you have fought back, or kept it quiet to avoid breaking the family apart? I've replayed every conversation I had with him, every warning sign, and I still wonder if I should have handled it differently. Some people say family is everything, that you forgive, no matter what. But at what point does forgiveness turn into letting yourself get used? I'd like to hear what you would have done in my place. Would you go public and risk losing everyone else, or handle it quietly and hope it doesn't happen again? Let me know if you've had to make this kind of choice, because I don't think I'm the only one. If you think stories like this matter, you can subscribe or like. It helps me see who's listening. Share this if you know someone who's dealing with something similar. I'm still not sure where the line is, so tell me. When is family just another word for betrayal?